Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Concussion Nerds Podcast. And we are just on a roll right now with welcoming guests to the podcast. So you're not stuck hearing just my voice alone every week. And the reason we're welcoming guests is because when I meet really great humans with awesome ideas or things that I think can support either your clinical practice for better outcomes for your clients, or if you're on a healing journey and I think that there's a tool that might benefit you, I want to share it with you. And so today we are welcomed by Chris Garvin. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me on, Natasha. You're making me blush.
You're going to hear more about who Chris is in a second. I'm going to let him officially introduce himself to you. But Chris is with a company called Neuronics. Is it Neuronics or Neuronic?
Just Neuronic. Just the one.
Neuronic. Just the one. I pluralized it. And it's a company that I've been working with and using in my clinic now for, oh, goodness gracious, I don't know, a year?
Almost a year
No.
now, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We talked before that. Ultimately, it is photobiomodulation. And there's a lot of growth happening in this field. Neuronic is showing up everywhere right now with their new device and the benefits of photobiomodulation. And you might already be listening to this going, what the fuck is photobiomodulation? And so don't worry. We are going to explain that to you today in a way that we can all understand, because y'all know I can nerd out, and I know Chris can nerd out big time too. So we're going to let him do that a little bit when he explains the science, but we're going to make sure everyone leaves here understanding what this is and how it can benefit your practice. Okay. So Chris, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about you? Where are you from? How did you end up where you are today? You're not just the company, you are you. So we want to know a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So my name is Chris. I'm from Dublin originally, but I'm living out here in Vancouver now. I grew up playing contact sport all my life, rugby, the Irish sports, Gaelic football and hurling that people don't know about much.
Sorry, did you just say Gaelic football?
Yeah, Gaelic football.
What is Gaelic football?
It's a little bit of a mix between, I guess, it's a field sport. It's full contact. It's kind of like a mix between rugby and soccer, I guess, but it's only played in Ireland.
I feel like I'm going to go Google Gaelic football after this because I've never heard of it before.
And it's a completely amateur sport, but you fill out a stadium with 83,000 people, and it's all about pride. So there's no transferring clubs. There's nothing like that. You play for where you're born, and it's kind of how you do it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm absolutely going to Google this after, but I totally interrupted you. Okay, so how long did you play Gaelic football for?
So I played them since I was about 4 years old, and sprinkled in there was rugby and pretty much anything I could get my hands on as well. So
okay.
Yeah. And then after kind of moving over to Canada, snowboarding was the big one as well, which I didn't know until I took it up. But apparently you hit your head when you're snowboarding as well if you're not very good.
You sure do. I always call it, like, I did it the full body forward plant. So it's like I'd catch my front edge, full body plant. So when I snowboarded, I don't know our age difference, Chris. I feel like there's probably an age difference here. When I snowboarded, you didn't wear helmets. And so catch the front edge, full body forward plant, and then the back of the board comes up and just like cracks you in the back of the head.
That happened to me. Like one of the first times I did it.
Yeah.
I was actually in France at the time. And I was just on the ground, just dry heaving, seeing stars everywhere, just in a terrible shape. And I think he must have been no older than 5, maybe a little French kid. Just circles around me. Monsieur, are you okay? Oh, I hated him. I didn't take any help off him. I felt there's nothing like that to really humble a human.
Yeah, fair enough. So how did you end up in Canada?
So me and 3 of my closest friends at the time, we all studied neuroscience. We didn't want to be in a wet lab anymore, to be honest. We were kind of sick and tired of the lack of a better term, the rat race. And we were dealing with all that. So we thought we'd take a year out, see what the world has to offer us. We moved over to Vancouver. And that's kind of when I started working with neurotech startups and kind of getting more into the industry.
Okay. And so neuroscience, back like university path, worked in labs by the sounds of it. And so this shift into tech, right? So what is it about what you do now and working for tech companies excites you?
I think at the time, it felt like I was just kind of, I guess, sick of what we were doing. But looking back on it more, I think it's because while obviously all this research is massively important, it doesn't feel like you're having a huge impact when you're working in the lab. It doesn't really translate necessarily to actually helping individuals.
Okay.
Whereas when you're working more in the industry like I am now, you get to see the actual impact it has on people's lives. I get messages back being like, this is helping me with this. I'm seeing my wife's personality come back. And that's a reason to wake up. Dealing with little rats in a lab, that it wasn't it.
Les isn't. This rat found his way through the maze. Yes.
Wasn't for me.
Now, how do we extrapolate that to humans? Because we know, I remember I didn't work for a company once, but it was a company that was trying to sell me a product, not in the tech space at all, in the supplement space. And I remember the person who was trying to sell it to me, again, best of intentions, huge heart. There's a new study that came out and it adds however many years to lifespan. And I was like, amazing. Can I see the study? Well, it was done on rats. And so I said to the person, I said, you know what, this is a really cool finding, but you can't directly extrapolate that to the human population. So this was just someone who was selling a product that didn't understand the science. I was like, you cannot directly extrapolate that to humans. 100%. Like, just not possible. So I love that now you're like, I get to use my nerdy brain and see change in people's lives.
100%. And we're kind of ramping up a lot of the research efforts on our behalf as well. So we're going to get some lovely data out there into the world soon.
I love it. So let's dig in a little bit. So Neuronic. So for those listening, like I said, I use it in my clinic. It is a I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's a photobiomodulation. I'm going to call it a helmet, a cap, helmet. But let's actually let you explain what is Neuronic. And so explain what it is first, and then let's talk about how it works.
Yeah, so photobiomodulation, I guess, if you're just looking at the word, it basically means to modulate life through light. So people have been using light therapy for quite a while now. It's kind of emerging in this industry now and it's blooming, but it's been around for ages. I think it was like in the 1900s, early 1900s, someone got a Nobel Prize for medicine for this stuff. So like while it's new to the scene, it's
not new at all.
Exactly. It's just kind of been pushed to a fringe science almost, I guess, as a result of the world and the industry that we were working in. It was heavily pharmaceutical and things, but it's emerging now. It's really exciting. And a lot of people are using kind of like red light therapy for their skin and for their hair. And for the most part, when I joined this company, I thought I'd be translating the science a lot on calls and like helping people to understand how this works. But I was shocked to find that most people know red light therapy now. I wasn't quite explaining how light therapy works. I was just explaining that last little hurdle from light therapy to how we help the brain.
Okay.
So the big difference between us and I guess a bit of conventional light therapy or red light therapy is that we just use a different wavelength of light. We use the 1070 wavelength of light, and it has a lower scattering coefficient. So essentially it just means it can penetrate a bit deeper, which is always good when even that's thick skull like myself.
And so let's go back a minute and let's talk about literally what and how does light help healing?
Yeah, of course. We're going to get nerdy for a little second.
Yes, please do.
Or if you hate this bit. But
we're good.
The light shines into the neurons. There's a specific little bit in the neuron. It's in the mitochondria, so the powerhouse of the cell. So basically it's a chromophore. So that just means something that absorbs light. There's a chromophore in the mitochondria called cytochrome C oxidase. And in that little cytochrome C oxidase, there's some little transition metals. And these transition metals are really important in the electron transport chain. So that's just how neurons in our brain produce energy.
Okay.
So the light shines on these little transition metals, and as a little consequence, nitric oxide is dissociated. We'll deal with that in a second. And oxygen is absorbed. And the consequence of this is that it really helps produce ATP. So the neurons in your brain are basically getting more energy efficient and just having a higher output, which is great. And then that nitric oxide, which is dissociated, is a vasodilator. So it helps healthy blood flow in the brain as well.
Okay. So what type of individuals benefit from using photobiomodulation for themselves?
Yes. So obviously we're kind of talking primarily on concussions here. Obviously reducing inflammation in the brain has a huge effect. It's a really profound effect, which is amazing. But primarily as a company, we actually started off working more so with people with neurodegenerative disorders and helping more so on that scene. So it has kind of a widespread versatility of use. And most recently, everyone kind of has their opinion on it, but the biohacking industry has really taken off. And we're seeing a lot of people using our device from a healthy standpoint and looking to optimize their sleep, their recovery, and everything on that end as well. So it's kind of been using photobiomodulation in a lot of fields.
That's cool. So, like anything, is there any negative consequences of using photobiomodulation? Can you use it too much? Like, what is the
Yeah,
research
I
showing
mean,
around that?
it's not a case that more is better. That's what most things, you don't want to overdo it. So like we kind of recommend staying within the threshold of around 10 to 15 minutes, nothing exceeding 30 minutes really. If you're kind of using it, just drink a big glass of water beforehand. It's always helpful with everything. And there's obviously contraindications like if you have brain cancer, you don't want to be feeding something malignant, extra energy. Same thought process, hyperthyroidism. You don't want to give your overactive thyroid more energy to kind of keep going around. But so there's a few different use cases that it isn't applicable, but for the most part, it's great.
And so, I mean, it used across multiple populations and such. What are a couple of your favorite kind of client stories that you've seen with individuals with Neuronic so far?
Oh, that probably my favorite was recently we had a gent reached out to us again. His wife has kind of late stage Alzheimer's and dementia. And it was just the littlest things of she cooked dinner for the first time in 3 years, he said. I just thought that was so moving. And I don't know how we could put that in tangible, publishable
I don't
data.
think you can,
But
but that doesn't matter.
yeah, I think it's all this anecdotal feedback. And it's always the ones that move me the most. It's not even the individual saying it, it's the individual's family members. Because they're the ones that notice the biggest changes in these people and kind of the emotional regulation and just how they're acting. So getting that feedback from the family members, it's always the coolest.
I love that you use that example too. When I think about the clients that I get the pleasure to work with and those on a persistent journey and those on the acute journey that I get to look at too, it's those moments that really like are those like heart filling are those ones that are like you gave people moments of almost like regular life back.
Yeah.
Right? Like when we have healthy brains and we aren't having to modify the way we live, yeah, I'm gonna say we take for granted for the fact that like we can get up, make ourselves a cup of coffee, take our kid to school, and come back and sit and do a day. And to be able to give someone that opportunity to be more just engaged in life.
Yeah. I mean, it's through the brain that we perceive everything. So if
Yeah.
there's dysregulation, there's something going on up there. To be able to offer some relief from that, it's really fun. It's been a fun job.
Yeah. So because I know there's going to be clinicians listening to this, and in the physical therapy world, evidence is king or queen, which again, I'm always of the context that yes, it needs to be more of an evidence-informed practice, not an evidence-based practice. We need to take what the research tells us and our clinical skills and our intuition, and we blend all those things together in how we practice. But is there research coming out supporting the use of photobiomodulation in brain as a whole? What is that research showing? All those sorts of things.
Yeah, 100%. As a whole for the industry, if you were to go on Google Scholar today and look up photobiomodulation for the brain and like kind of looked at the amount of publications coming out per year, it is through the roof. It is logarithmic.
Okay.
So you're only going to see more and more kind of coming out in the industry,
Got it.
which is obviously very exciting and lots of homework on our end to read up on.
Mhm.
But even just from our company point of view, I think we're undergoing, 12 trials at the minute, one of which is on TBI and concussions.
Perfect.
A lot of research efforts are going into mild cognitive impairment with Alzheimer's. Really, research efforts are widespread. We kind of put all of our profits and revenue back into research because it's just helping promote us in the industry and just help these people at the end of the day.
So because you are obviously reviewing some of those studies, what are some of the things that you're seeing in those papers?
I'd say the biggest one, or the one that I got most excited about recently, was there's a paper recently showing that BDNF is produced and BDNF levels are being optimized and increased through use of photobiomodulation,
Really?
which is really exciting. Yeah. And obviously BDNF can be boosted from a variety of other things, but
Well, we mostly hear about BDNF coming through exercise, right?
yeah.
But then the challenge comes, okay, this is exciting to me. So we hear about, and I'm totally interrupting you, and then we'll go back to you, I promise. Because we hear about BDNF and we know about the importance of it. I say it's like it's the fertilizer for the grass to grow, right? Like that's what allows us to have
I like
neuroplasticity.
that. I'm going to steal that.
But one of the most common way we hear about BDNF being produced is through aerobic exercise.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the persistent concussion population, many of them don't have the ability to do the level of aerobic exercise that would be required, because we also don't really know what the requirement is, to produce BDNF. So you're telling me that there was a study that came out that said if we use photobiomodulation, it is finding that it's producing BDNF in the brain.
Exactly.
Well, that's really cool. Can you send me that study?
Yes, I can.
That's really cool. Because then what I'll do, if you send me that, I'm going to talk about it in my, if you're not on it, you should be on it. So I have basically an email segment. It's called the Clinician's Edge. So every week I send an email out to clinicians that is like a concussion tidbit gem. If you send me that study, I will put that into Clinician's Edge, and then I'll actually just link Neuronic's website or your contact information in the email too. So that people are like, holy shit, this is cool. I want to do it. Then I'll just drive them to Neuronic from there too.
That was my exact reaction when I read the paper. Holy shit, this is cool.
Like, sometimes I read a paper. This is where like our nerdiness comes out so much. This is how I think. We know that truly for research to translate into practice, it's 7 to 10 years? Well, because when you even just look at concussion phenotypes, not everyone still knows what the fucking concussion phenotype is. It was first put out in 2014. It's 2025. We're at 11 years.
It takes time. It takes people like you talking about it. It's not everyone can read the papers.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things is when I find a good paper and I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is cool. They had good outcomes, especially if it's a paper that is a human paper and it talks about the methods a bit. So if I read a paper and I'm like, okay, this is cool. They had good outcomes. I like it. There was minimal to no risk to the client in this intervention. Let's try it.
I love it.
And I always call it like grassroots therapy. And I believe that it's like, if we're waiting for everything to be in 10 peer-reviewed studies, you're behind.
100%.
You're behind. And so I love finding and coming across these papers that are like, holy shit. And you're like, oh, hold on. I could do this. And there's no risk to the client. And you can incorporate it into your therapy. I love it.
Appreciate it.
There was this study that came out recently. So it's in the Clinician's Edge. Also, I feel like sometimes like Denmark and like the Scandinavian countries do such a better job at things than we do. Oh, they are. And like in every aspect of things, like to dementia care, they kind of suck at concussion. I'm not going to lie. We get so many people that message. Now, I'm going to butcher this. When I say like Scandinavian countries, I don't fully know which countries. Geography, friends, not my cup of tea. Can only be good at so many things. Geography is not mine. But I read this study, and so it was somewhere over there, but it was looking at I'm going to butcher this so bad right now, doing therapy for persistent concussion in nature and the results that had on fatigue and symptom score and quality of life. And wherever the heck this was, I've linked it in Clinician's Edge. This is so bad. My brain today not working. I need to pull up my photobiomodulation to help my cognitive. I'm going to put it on gamma mode, and we're going to do that. We should talk about that in a second. But it's been a forest park that was very specifically developed and designed to work with different health conditions. And so they have like outdoor classroom of part of it. They have like a foresty part. They have a pond, but it was very strategically designed to use for healthcare. And I think it was in Norway. Anyways, I read this thing and I was like, I so often come back to like, I want to do group workshops and retreats and things for individuals with a healing journey as well. And I read this study and I was like, I need to freaking get my outdoor workshop going.
I mean, my nightmare in my head is like that super clinical looking hospital system where everything's white and shiny and glossy, and that freaks me out in my head.
Yeah.
Absolute opposite, going outdoors and doing your therapy outside in a lovely place.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and then I go to like, okay, because I preach about the importance of not training compensations, but training resources and then working from a systems perspective, like micro to macro. And I'm like, but there's absolutely a way to blend these two, because we also know when you look at all the literature around forest bathing, just the benefit of being in nature, just being in nature for your nervous system.
And there's no better place to do it than Vancouver.
Right? Oh my gosh. I also dream of offering this like cold plunge meditation, like combination workshop. There's so many. I need more people. I need more Natashas to run these things because I run out of time. Okay, so let's go back to Neuronics for a second. Neuronic, I've officially pluralized your company name.
A lot of people do. I get it quite a bit.
Officially pluralized it. So we have these different modes that we can pick, right? So we can do, and I love the names, glow, I don't remember now, focus, peace, and what's the other one? Balance. Okay. So let's talk about what those modes are and what that actually means in terms of the brain.
100%. So
you're on.
I'm on. And so I guess the vast majority of research around photobiomodulation is primarily around just using the LEDs or the laser or the light or whatever the modality is in that case, using it consistently on, just consistently shining into the brain.
Okay.
Which is obviously very good for reducing inflammation and boosting energy and all these things. But there's also little pockets of the research around pulsing light,
okay,
which is getting more and more traction, and it's getting very exciting. So I guess the thought process behind these other protocols is in line with brainwaves. Okay. So, for example, the focus protocol is on 40 hertz oscillation, which is gaining a lot of traction around Alzheimer's and mild cognitive impairment, which is really exciting. So we kind of led with that protocol off the basis of there was some research down in Texas by a lady called Hanli Liu, and she was doing multi-sensory stimulation. So it wasn't just photobiomodulation, but it was light paired with sound therapy. And it wasn't an animal study, I'm sorry. But it showed a reduction in the buildup of plaques in the brain and plaques and tau buildup. So it was really exciting to see that. And then further research has gone on in human studies to show the improvements it can have on MOCA tests and ERPs and all these kind of great things. So we've kind of led with that one, and we aptly named it Focus. And then in a similar vein, we've created the peace protocol, for example, which is on 10 hertz, which would be more in line with the alpha beta kind of gamma or alpha beta brainwaves. So people love that one for a more meditative state or more relaxing kind of way. So we've kind of led with these protocols, that intention.
And so when someone is, because Neuronic can be sold just commercially to any, or to like just the wellness user, correct? It doesn't have to go through a clinician at all.
No. I'd say the vast majority of end users would be just kind of using it at home.
Yeah. And so is there guidelines for them around select peace or balance if you want to A, B, and C, like feel such and such a way?
Yeah, we've kind of got a lot of resources online in YouTubes and stuff. And usually we kind of hop on a call and help them pick what's right for them and walk them through it. And we've kind of consulting services as well if they want a bit more hands-on kind of care and anything like that. But for the most part, we find that individuals are usually coming to us with one goal in mind, and that aligns with one of the protocols. So once they've kind of selected what is right for them, it's usually just a push of a button so that they're kind of consistently using it.
Cool.
We know the demographic that we work with in mind is usually kind of people with cognitive deficits, be it concussion recovery or mild cognitive impairment or anything like that. So we've tried to make it a fine balance between a very versatile clinician tool, but also something that isn't intimidating for that demographic to use.
Right. Well, and that makes sense too. I mean, you don't want it to have to go through a clinician because then it's, we talk about too in terms of recovery processes, like, yes, there's things that you need a clinician for, but there's so much you can choose to do as someone on a healing journey that is your own choice, and you have that autonomy and that empowerment to make these decisions for yourself.
100%.
And you shouldn't have to be guided every step of the way.
No, especially if you can do something actionable at home on a daily level.
Yeah.
How often can you realistically see a clinician?
Yeah.
It's quite limiting.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a pleasure getting to learn more about you. Thank you for being here. If someone wants to learn more about Neuronic,
nailed it.
There we go. If someone wants to learn more about Neuronic, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, you can reach out to us on our website at neuronic.online, or my email is chris.garvin@neuronic.online.
Awesome. And we will drop both of those links in the show notes as well. Chris, thank you so much for being here. I know I've blocked it out. Chris is coming to my clinic I've been using Neuronic, like I said, for ages. We have it in the clinic. I've been using photobiomodulation as a whole in my treatment since 2019. And I'm having Chris actually come to my clinic to do an in-service for my team so that he can go really nerdy on the science, because I know that's what they want. So we're excited to see you here on the island in a couple weeks. Few weeks.
Having us. Yeah, 22nd, I think.
Yeah. So excited to have you here. And then I know you're going up island to do another in-service up island as well with one of our colleagues. So a little island tour. So if you're listening to this and you are on Vancouver Island, either Nanaimo, Victoria, Courtney, Comox, and you are interested in having Chris, is Nicole coming with you? Yeah. So Chris and Nicole's another Neuronic team member. If you're interested in having a team in service, reach out to Chris because maybe we can make you do a little island tour. Or if you're in Nanaimo, okay, and you are free on July 22nd from 12 p.m. till 1 p.m., lunchtime, and you are either on a healing journey and interested in learning more about photobiomodulation and neuronic, or you're a clinician and you're interested, open invitation to come to my clinic. Please just send me an email so that I know who to expect and how many people to expect. And you are welcome to come to Symphony to learn about Neuronic as well. So my email will drop in the show notes. You can email me directly if you want to join us for our in-service. Otherwise, you can reach out to Chris and maybe we can book you a little island tour, my friend.
That'd be awesome. I'll bring baked goods.
Oh, as long as they're gluten-free. I can't have gluten. So the Symphony baked goods, gluten-free, please.
I'll take it.
All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing rest of your day. And for those of you listening, thank you for being here. We have some really fun freaking things coming up. So stay tuned to my Instagram. Stay tuned to my email because we are launching the release of the Concussion Nerds Virtual Summit is back. And it is going to be September 27th and 28th. So keep an eye on your inboxes and my social media for details on that. You will not want to miss it. We had 300 people last year. It was awesome. So I'm really stoked for this year. Okay. Have a lovely day, my friends, and we'll see you soon. That's today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, give us a like, give us a share, give us a tag on Instagram, and please never hesitate to reach out. We love communicating and connecting with you. Until next week, my friends, have a marvelous day.